I know that it takes a few seconds for Facebook to let you guys know I've gone live, so I've been told to ramble on and hope that someone joins me pretty quickly. I heard from several of you that you'll be coming tonight, so I am looking forward to seeing you. I am once again working off of 2 screens, so hopefully I don't look too strange when I switch back and forth. Welcome, welcome. Give it just a few more seconds to see if someone's here. Let me know you're here because I don't always know you're on if you don't say hi. So, it's a wonderful Wednesday night. We're trying 7 o'clock tonight instead of 8 o'clock to see how it goes. And I am going to give it a few more seconds before I officially begin. Again, if you're here, let me know. Say hi in the comment box. I look forward to seeing some of you. I'll go ahead and get started. So there's Jody. Hi, Jody. I'm glad you're here. It's always good to see people. And thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys. So welcome. Welcome to Insights with Ivanna. As some of you already know, it is a weekly broadcast designed to help you identify, embrace, and live more fully in your genius by illuminating important pieces of information that you actually already possess. So today I'll be sharing step 6 of 10 ways to illuminate your insights. We've already explored the first 5 steps that I use to become the golden version of myself. And if I could have you raise your hands or shout out loud, I'd ask you what the first 5 were. But just in case, I'll just do a recap. The first one was find your joy. And after we find our joy, we work on taking 100% responsibility. For number 3, it's do all things in love. 4, drop the judgment. And last week we talked about check expectations. So hello there, I am Ivanna, the founder and chief luminary officer of Luminary Insights, an intuitive life coaching brand. So I'm excited tonight to talk about set boundaries because I have to be very honest that at first when I really started working on boundaries, I just did not believe that setting appropriate boundaries would actually be freeing. I felt like it would be very constricting and restrictive and maybe uncomfortable. But when boundaries are in place, when appropriate boundaries are in place, it actually helps create more respectful relationships and gives you higher self-worth. And again, I didn't necessarily believe that at first, but the more I've tried it, the more I've learned, and hopefully as we discuss it tonight, you'll see that as well. So I'm going to try to launch a poll. I'm going to try to launch a poll here to see what your answers are. How are you at setting boundaries is the poll. So for a moment, I won't be able to see if somebody new comes on, but I have the poll up. How are you at setting boundaries? Do you have realistic boundaries and you stick to them? Do you have boundaries, but maybe you don't always stick to them? Maybe you need to be a little more clear on your boundaries, or you're asking, what boundaries? Right? So I've only a few on right now, but if you're watching the replay, ask yourself the same questions. Where are you with your setting your boundaries? Oh, I see that we have another person who's joined. I'll see who that is in just a second. So right now, 67% have said, I have realistic boundaries and I stick to them. That's awesome. That is something that I've had to work to get to that point, to really embrace that. So it's exciting to see that there are so many of you doing that. Oh, some more people have joined. 40%, I have boundaries but don't always stick to them. 20%, I need to be more clear on my boundaries. And at the moment, nobody's saying what are boundaries. I'm going to pause the poll so I can get back to the dashboard and see who else has joined us. Again, be sure to say hi or I won't know that you're here. I see Jackie has joined us. Yay, Jackie, you made it. Thank you so much. So what I'm seeing on my screen is Jody and Ann and Jackie, but I saw more numbers in the poll. So if you're here, please go ahead and say hi. Sometimes there might be a delay, but I really appreciate you being here. Well, evidently, I did not close the poll. Now I think I've closed it. So thank you for answering that. Luann, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. So the poll is something for you to think about. Where are you? And so we're hopefully going to have a great discussion with people coming from different places. But just to make sure, hi Reve, thanks for joining. Just to make sure that we're all in the same place as to what a boundary is, I want to give you the definition that I'm working off of. Antoinette, you got it. Yay. Technology is sometimes something we have to work with, so I'm so glad it worked for you. So my definition, or the definition that I'm going with for boundaries, is that they're rules or limits that we put in place to protect ourselves from being manipulated by others. Now, manipulated is kind of a strong word, but that's the word I want to use in this definition. And we can have physical, emotional, and mental boundaries that they help us say no, but they also free us to open ourselves up because we know where those lines are. So now we know what they are, and we know how they help us, but how do we set them? So for me, I begin by identifying what I want and what I won't tolerate in my life. And again, tolerate sounds like a really strong word, but when you're looking at boundaries and the quality of your life, tolerate is important. I won't tolerate certain things because I know what I want. So for example, I want to have a healthy work-life balance. Some of you who've known me a long time know that that's not always been in place. So I decided that I won't tolerate excessive work hours, lack of free time, or getting my self-worth from my profession. So I know what I want. I know what I won't tolerate. So in the picture for today, which you may have seen it online already, but in the picture for today, you see me on one side working and me on the other side having a blast, out having a good time. And in the middle of that picture, there's that tear. And that tear represents for me the commitment to both and to having clear boundaries between them. Now again, those of you who've worked with me for a while, you know that I am notorious for not setting boundaries for myself when it comes to work, especially when I was single again. So there's actually 2 pictures of Wonder Woman on my office wall. One was given to me by my son, and one was given to me by a great friend. And if you follow me on Friday, you'll see the pictures of those. And I thought it was great that they recognized me for my superpowers, but I wish I'd realized sooner that I am not, nor do I need to be, Wonder Woman, right? So because I love what I do, I didn't take vacations for a lot of years. I would add a weekend or a day to a business trip, but I never really unplugged or took the time to truly unwind. I was committed to my job, and partially, as I said in my won't tolerates, it's because that's where I got my value. I got my value because I loved what I did and people respected me for what I did, and I felt like I did a great job. So that's where my value was coming from. So little by little, I allowed work time to creep into my personal time. I didn't even realize what was going on until I got remarried. And then I had to learn to find those clean lines again between the 2 aspects of my life so that I could really enjoy them. And so now I do some small things, like I actually schedule my lunches on my calendar so I don't forget to take them. But I do bigger things too. And some of the bigger things, especially pre-COVID, the last few years before COVID, I took extended international vacations where I could really switch gears and focus on my family and friends and fun. Marla's joined us. Hi, I'm so glad you're here. So now I want to ask you to think about yourself. Do you keep clear boundaries between work and personal life? If you do, how do you do it? If you don't, how might you do it? So take a few seconds and just type in the chat box. Do you keep those clear boundaries? In the poll, some of you said you do. So let's hear how you do it. I'll try to be quiet. We know I have trouble with wait time. I know it takes a little time to type. But seeing who's on here, I know that a number of you do a great job of keeping those boundaries. And I know a number of you maybe have had to go through some of the things that I have. All right, so Antoinette says, I do not keep clear boundaries, but I like the idea of scheduling on the calendar for the small things. Antoinette, it has been life-changing for me. And what I've done at work is that I've put it on the calendar, and if I have initials beside the word lunch, they know that it's not flexible. If it just says lunch and somebody needs to have a meeting during that time, they can approach me and ask me if I'm willing to flex that. But they know, and they have come to truly respect that if there are no letters beside the word lunch, it's not going to happen. And a meeting actually got placed right up against lunch, and it habitually seemed like it was going to run late. And now when it gets to be about 2 minutes before lunchtime, my boss will even say, Ivanna, if you need to go, it's okay. I'll catch you up on what you miss. So it has been tremendous as far as setting setting those boundaries and having the relationships just really become more respectful. It's so, so powerful. So powerful. Yes, Marla, you do teach that, and that is part of why I'm able to do it today. Thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know who Marla is my wonderful, amazing business coach who has been part of this process of helping me become the golden version of myself. So let's see. Thank you, Marla. Yes, self-care is number one, Marla says. Absolutely. Having to have that self-care. I had a wonderful hour-and-a-half massage on Sunday. That's part of my self-care. Let's see what Reve says. Not at all. I'm definitely not a poster child for clear work-play boundaries. Reve, you and I have walked through some of this together, and we will continue to help each other with that. So I look forward to us continuing those conversations, and I think you do a little bit better than you're saying you do in your comment. I would not go with not at all. But there are definitely some things that we can think about and, share with each other. If you hear someone make a comment, share what you do so that we can share that with each other. Oh, Jackie said, I have to be conscious about my boundaries or I will succumb to doing more than I should as I have an overpowering desire to be all things to all. Yes, there's my little WW, my Wonder Woman, right? So, and Jackie, you are so much to so many people. You are such a blessing in so many people's lives. So I can certainly see how you would get fulfillment from that and also want to do that. So I'm curious to know, how do you set those boundaries? Let's see if some of you add some of that. Marla, when I'm out of balance from not honoring my boundaries, I listen to my intuition about how my body feels. Yeah. And we've talked about that in some of the earlier episodes, especially in my life, how not honoring those boundaries led to some pretty severe physical repercussions. And so listening to those boundaries and honoring our bodies is huge, absolutely huge. Let's see, Anne keeps jumping. Yay. Anne is one of the co-authors in Women Who Shine, which is where these 10 steps came from my work on my chapter. Anne went from workaholic to depressed and a mess. Wow. Last job I had, I learned to say no and set those boundaries for my health. Absolutely. So if you want to share, Anne, how did you do it? How did you go from that pressure of feeling like you had to be Wonder Woman or do it all to really setting those boundaries? Lou Ann, another overachiever. My commitment has lessened since COVID because I'm needed in so many areas. Okay. I don't reserve reading time once I get home. I do give myself lunch out twice a week. Good for you. I thought it said you gave yourself lunch twice a week, but I realized it said lunch out twice a week. Thank you, Luann. And Luann is another person who gives so much to so many people and is so talented. And we just have to make sure that we are guarding ourselves and balancing our lives and looking at that self-care. Jody says that self-care is definitely super important. Yes, and it's taken years to learn that. And Jody, I've watched you in your journey, how far you have come. It's absolutely amazing. And I would never believe that you are now outstepping me. So I've got to get back on the ball with my step count. Absolutely. Yay, Anne's getting cheered on. Yeah, Jackie, so back to what you were saying. You have to be conscious and realistic to honor your intuition. Absolutely. And I know some of us were sharing a podcast recently about intuition and how important it is to listen to that. And when we're setting those boundaries, listening to what we're telling ourselves, just being quiet and centering ourselves to hear, what is it I really want? What is it I really need? Fantastic. Thank you for the discussion there. So, I think about, it's one thing to set boundaries for myself because I can sit myself down and have a little chat and figure it out. But what if it's external? What if somebody's crossing the line where a clear boundary should be? So again, I follow the same process. I identify what I want and what I won't tolerate. And that's so important because if you don't know what you want, you just can't get there. It's like a GPS. If you don't have your GPS set for a destination, how are you going to know when you get there? So I'm going to keep talking about work, but this time I'm going to talk about the coaching relationship. So I want my time in a coaching relationship to be respected. So what I won't tolerate is a lack of timely communication, missed appointments, or incomplete work. And that might sound a little bit harsh, don't get me wrong. There are always expectations, emergencies, etc. But in general, I expect a timely response to emails, calls, text, especially if I'm in the middle of like a virtual discussion or a negotiation or my coaching program. And I still embrace the corporate 24 to 48 hour response standard. I think that's really important. But even if the response is just, I'll get back to you next week, to let me know that you've heard from me, that you've gotten my message, that we are still in communication. I think that's really important. And it applies to appointments as well. Other than an emergency, I expect consistent attendance and to begin and end on time. So when I'm coaching, I provide clients with exercises that call for in-depth responses in order to get them to identify, embrace, and live more fully in their genius. So if the questions go unanswered or important details are omitted or the answers are just really surface level, it's going to slow down the transformation process and eat up really valuable time. Now, I'll tell you, I have checked these expectations, which is what we talked about last week, and I believe that all of these expectations are realistic. So, for me, when these two boundaries are respected, when you respect my time with communication and with fulfilling, doing the exercises, then I can really be flexible on other fronts. But if those two things aren't respected and aren't in place, then it's very hard to continue with a relationship that is really going to provide what we're trying to do within the coaching environment. So I want to ask you now, what are your key boundaries? So my boundaries are tied to time and quality of work, but the quality of work is also tied to time. So what are your key boundaries? And I'll give you a second to write. And I see that Keisha has joined us. Keisha is part of my self-care. She is part of how I take care of myself with the most amazing massages in the whole wide world. I do see that Anne, responding to the last question, gives herself permission to do a lot of things: acupuncture, Reiki, Akashic clearings, shifting, listening to her soul, doing mega meditations. So it sounds like you've got a whole group of things that you're doing. Let's see what's coming in about your key boundaries. So Luann has noticed that when she respects others, okay, let me read it. I've noticed that when I respect others' commitment boundaries, they are more likely to honor mine. Yes, so it's a mutual two-way street. So you can remove yourself from those who are unwilling to honor them. Absolutely. Turning 60 has helped. I've heard that from a lot of people. I've heard that at a certain age, it's just kind of like, you know what? I don't have to worry about this anymore. And it's not a negative thing. It's really a positive coming into your own. That's awesome to hear, Luann. Awesome. Marla added clear communication and respecting my calendar. Yeah, I think I got some of my clear boundaries by my work with Marla too. We really both value that our time is respected, that our expertise is respected, but that our time is part of that respect. Jody, respect my wishes, my health issues, don't abuse my generosity. Right, so Jody has a heart of gold and would give you the shirt off of her back, but people can take advantage of that. And so learning how to not feel guilty or not feel like you have to do something is really, really important. Thank you for sharing that, Jody. I'll give you just a second for anybody else. And I'm wondering, are you guys seeing a poll thing on your screen? Because I would like to get rid of that, but I'm not sure how. All right. Any other comments on what your key boundaries are? Anne says with family. Oh, very interesting. I limit my time with certain members and use key phrases. Yes, so that you can make sure that the difficult people aren't setting you off. Absolutely. You've set that boundary and there's no need to feel guilty about it. You know what you want and you know what you won't tolerate. Jackie has clear boundaries and how people will respect and appreciate her. Clear boundaries with her husband, her daughter, her clients. Absolutely. Good. So the poll's not showing on the screen. Thank you, Anne. And Rebecca sees me on the phone. Thanks for joining me on the phone. It's nice to know that it works that way. All right, so some of you have already touched on what my next thought was. Well, what if someone doesn't respect my boundaries? So I go back to the WW, to the Wonder Woman, and I realize that I don't have to be Wonder Woman or Superman or whatever superhero you admire. I don't have to try to fix all the problems in the world. And there are many times in my life where I felt that I did. I'm a fixer by nature. So I go back to my 10 steps. And the very first step is to find your joy. And I know some people find it hard to believe, but I can be frustrated and still find joy. I can find something like how much I love or respect the person that I'm working with, or even how this uncomfortable opportunity is going to help me grow. So from a place of love, I share what I want and will not tolerate. Now, this could begin in an email, but it's really best handled in a direct conversation. And I've even crafted a work agreement that I discuss with my clients. We tweak it as we need to, and then we both sign it so that we acknowledge that our mutual boundaries are understood and that we're going to make every effort to respect it. And that was a very powerful piece for me in working with Marla, knowing exactly what she expected from me and us being able to talk about from the very beginning so that there was no guesswork. We knew what it was that we needed to do to show each other respect. So if my boundaries are breached, it's vital for me to just really try to stay away from the judgment, because it's so easy to make a story in my mind and judge someone for why I think they're doing what they're doing. And I need to take that 100% responsibility, like we talked about in episode 2, for my thoughts, for my words, and for my actions. And knowing what it is that I want and won't tolerate frees me. So I'm not easily manipulated. I'm not pulled from my true north. And when my boundaries are repeatedly disrespected, I can, in a clear conscience and in love, step away. I can choose not to work with a client, or in a personal situation, I can step away from a so-called friend or a relationship that's detrimental to my well-being. And if I can't step away, then I can keep coming through a place of love. So taking steps like that may feel uncomfortable, but as we already talked about, the power of respectful relationships and strengthening your own self-worth makes it all worthwhile. And it sounds like from some of your comments that some of you have experienced that. Anne especially, I think, was one that really talked about a dramatic change. So I want to encourage you moment by moment to honor your boundaries by expressing what you need from a place of love and acceptance, and then trusting the universe to conspire in your favor. That's one of my favorite new phrases. The universe is conspiring in my favor. If you're going to make up a story, make up a good one, right? Make up a story. Believe with all your heart that things are working together for your good. If any of you are doing A Course in Miracles, I think it was yesterday that it talks about everything's working together. It's working the way it's supposed to. It's going to be good. It says the same thing in the Bible, right? So really believing that and trusting that things are working in your favor. I'm looking to see if there are any more comments. Lots of dittos for people having to limit things with family and work around those kind of situations. Great. So Marla says, when someone doesn't respect my boundaries, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt first. Yeah, to be sure they even know what it is. I'll ask them if they know what my boundaries are, not being accusatory, and I gotta make it expanded, and just a second. So yeah, give them a hint and educating them. And sometimes it can't just be a hint. Sometimes it has to be really straightforward, and then that's where it comes back to love. How do I do this in love? How do I get the judgment out of the way? Because if I'm judging, oh, why is this person doing this? Why are they not respecting me? I thought they were such and such. If I can take the judgment out, I can do it in love. But if I'm doing it in judgment, which is my nature, then that's what's going to come through. Hi, Christian. Thank you for joining us. It's great to have you. So yeah, so really thinking about all of these pieces and how they fit together in the 10 steps. I went through my chapter, and I know most of you have seen the book, but I have to do my shameless plug, right? Women Who Shine. In my chapter, Illuminate Your Insights, I really went back through the chapter and I said, what was it that I did? What were the steps that I took that helped me along the way that might help other people? And you keep hearing me say the golden version of myself, and that's something that one of my friends, when we were talking about my growth and experience, she said, Ivanna, you have truly become the golden version of yourself. And that has just resonated with me and spoken to me and encouraged me to keep going. So let's see. Luann says, there are no obstacles, just opportunities for awareness and communication. Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking for the opportunity to grow. So I don't know if all of you have 10 ways to illuminate your insights already. It is a free download on the website, myilluminaryinsights.com. You can, that is a free gift for the purchase of my book with my personal cover. I still can't believe I'm on the cover of a book, my name on the spine. It's really exciting. What's really cool about this book, and a couple of the other authors are on with us tonight, is how powerful the stories are from all of the authors in the book. So if you haven't had a chance to get it and read it, each chapter is completely different. Each journey that someone has walked through is completely different. And I just encourage you to go to the book page on myilluminaryinsights.com and look at that. I've got another poll for you before we wrap it up tonight. And the poll is, how can I support you? So do you need help setting and sticking to boundaries? Do you want to identify, embrace, and live more fully in your genius? Are you curious about all 10 ways to illuminate your insights, or maybe something else? So you can type in the chat box, and I wonder if I can look at the chat box while the poll is going. Can you guys still see the poll? I think so. Thank you, Jody, for putting the web link in the chat box. Yay, Jackie has her copy. That's awesome, Jackie. Thank you. Hi, Sherry. Another one of our Women Who Shine authors has just joined us. Thank you for coming, Sherry. And thank you, Jody, for your comment about the growth and the chapter. It just really is fascinating to see 30 women. It's actually 30 plus with some of the other pieces that were added to the book. 30 women and the transformations that each of us have been able to make in our lives. And we want them to be encouragement to everybody who's out there. So let me see if I can get back to the poll to see results. It's active. There we go. So 25%, I need help setting and sticking to boundaries. 75%, I'm curious about all 10 ways to illuminate my insights. Fantastic. And nobody's giving me something deeper right now with something in the chat, but that's okay. That's okay. So again, I'm going to pause the poll and see if I can get that closed down. I'm still learning all of this. So if you're interested in all 10 ways to illuminate your insights, again, when you purchase the book, you have the opportunity to go, it didn't go away. You have the opportunity to go to the book page of the website and put in your information, and you get this beautiful download with all 10 steps. The 10 steps are really, each one is just short. It's just a highlight. And then what I've been doing, this is our 6th broadcast. Each week, I am taking one of those 10 steps and just expanding it and going deeper, and then hearing from you guys what you're doing and how it's impacting you as well. It then goes up on this particular page. It also goes up on Friday on Instagram, and it's also loaded to YouTube. And I actually have one person who has followed each of the episodes. She doesn't use Facebook, and so she's following me on YouTube and has been making comments on the actual YouTube. So that's been exciting as well. So you can contact me through the website and let me know how you've decided to set and keep your boundaries, or that you're ready to explore how we can work together. So I will stay on for a few more minutes. I try to keep these to 30 minutes, and we're at about 28, but I'd love to stay on if there are people that want to chat more. So I'll keep it running and stay on and see if you have other questions. Questions for me, questions for each other, or even any more comments and thoughts about how you have been able to set your boundaries and really stick with them, and how that's impacted you. Because again, for me, as I said at the beginning, I just was not truly ready to embrace. I have a problem with structure sometimes, at least up until now. I've had problems with structure. And so I'm learning that structure is actually freeing, and it's so powerful for me. So powerful for me. So what's so cool, Jody? Something is so cool. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you guys. Marla, thank you. I hope you are proud and feel that you've done good, and that I've done good as well. So thank you. So let's see what Ann has to say. Keisha, thank you. Great information. Fantastic. It's so good to see all of you here and to see your names. I'd love to see you in person. And boundaries and discernment were two of my greatest challenges. I had to set boundaries with my own ego. Oh my gosh, yes. That's why I started with the first part. Like the first thing I had to do was set boundaries with myself, because until you set them with yourself, how are you going to set them with someone else? And even going back a step, until you know what you want, it's hard to determine what you won't tolerate. And your intuition plays such a part in that. So thank you, Jackie. Oh, you'll journal. Fantastic. And I hope you'll share how you've decided that you might embrace boundaries more. And sometimes it's not setting them and using them, but it's like Jackie just said, embracing them and loving them and believing in them. Keisha, I have a problem with structure and being consistent. That's probably why we get along so well, my dear. Oh, the person following me on YouTube is cool. Yeah, it's real exciting. I have to remember to go to YouTube and look at the comments to see what she's saying. So it is really neat. All right, well, like I said, I'll give it just a few more seconds to see if anybody else types in the chat. But I want to thank you for being here tonight. And if you found this interesting, helpful, entertaining, I hope you'll share it with other people. It will show up very soon on this webpage, and then it will be shared again on Friday through email and on Instagram and YouTube. So lots of love to you too, Reve. I'm so happy you were on here. And thank you. You've been part of this growth and success. You know that. You've been a great part of this, part of my test market. So I really love it. You're a great friend. Thank you, Antoinette, for coming. It's so exciting. There are people from both coasts and several states in between. So a nice range of people here tonight. Every Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time, I'll be doing these broadcasts. I'll try to remember to text you guys and encourage you. I do post it on my Facebook page as a reminder, and I hope to see some more of you as well. And monthly structural tension chart and a daily task worksheet helps you a lot. Yeah, I'd love to see them. I have created a daily, weekly, monthly task chart as well. And I'll do really well with it for a while, and then it's just like I don't follow through with it. So I'm still trying to see, is that just me being resistant to structure? So that's one of the things I'm working on as well, but I'd love to see yours. Love to see yours. Thank you again, everybody. I hope you have a great night. Sending love and light, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.